Good evening. So we'll start with our psychology lecture, and as we have described earlier that we are keeping several chapters under different blocks. So with block 1 consists of your chapters from introduction, methods of psychology, research methods, and measurement of ID. What is ID? Individual differences. And since psychology is the study of scientific study rather of individual differences play an important role in our understanding of psychological phenomena, right? So these are the chapters which we have kept under our block 1. Fine. So what we'll do today this chapter, introduction, and I'll give you, as I keep on telling that I don't give you the fish, I'll just tell you how to fish. The technique to simplify, as our motto is to simplify the process. Simplify, strategize, and succeed. This is the motto of MJIS. Okay. So in the simplification process, what all do we have in the simplification? In the simplification, the biggest tool which we have is your, first of all, we'll go back to slides from the start, because some of you might have joined right now only. So we were just talking about the block 1. In the block 1 of psychology for UPSC, what we have kept? We have kept these chapters, the chapters of introduction, the chapter of methods of psychology, the chapter of research methods, the chapter of measurement of individual differences, which comes under paper 2, under which we will see the psychological test, use, misuse, ethical issues, reliability, validity, etc. under this chapter, measurement of individual differences. As far as these 3 chapters are concerned, introduction, methods of psychology, research methods, these are part of your paper 1, and we'll see today the introduction chapter. Fine. So in the introduction chapter, as I told you, our approach is to simplify the process, strategize, giving you a strategy. How we'll simplify and strategize, that I'll present to you right now. Then under this simplification process comes 2 important tools. First is your syllabus. Then comes your previous year question papers. And you will see that using these 2 tools, how I will simplify the whole chapter 1, introduction chapter, which we'll cover in 2 lectures only. Fine. So let's proceed. We'll see first and foremost the syllabus. What is the syllabus of chapter 1 of psychology paper 1, which is called introduction? Have you heard this name? DTH, DTH. This is the first part of your syllabus. So as some of you have joined again, as I can see, that I'll just go back to give you a brief idea of what we are talking about. Here we started with our psychology block 1. Under the block 1, this is lecture 2. What all chapters are under block 1? Introduction, methods of psychology, research methods. These 3 are part of your paper 1. Then comes your measurement of individual differences. This being the part of your paper 2. Then comes your strategy which will follow, so that you cover the whole psychology during the 45-day course of hours, and you get a feel that you have known more than what is taught in 6.5 months and beyond at several other places. You will be writing beautiful answers which will fetch you 300 plus marks, that's my guarantee. So here we'll be simplifying the process, giving you the strategy to succeed. And when I say succeed, it means that you will be scoring more than 300. And in fact, if you just do a bit more from your own side, you may score even 325 plus. So having said so, we are now going to use the two tools. The two tools are SP, Superintendent of Police, as you know, syllabus and previous year question paper. As for syllabus, P for previous year question papers. And how we'll use that, we'll see. Now we are seeing the syllabus. Syllabus of what? Syllabus of your psychology paper 1. Psychology paper 1, chapter 1, that is introduction. We are going to see the syllabus. In the syllabus, the chapter is, first topic is definition, history and trends. As I give you the mnemonic of DTH. D for definition. Definition of what? Definition of psychology. Psychology is the scientific study of human behavior and mental processes. When we say human behavior, we are talking about the overt behavior, what we can observe. When we are saying mental processes, we are talking about the covert phenomena, covert constructs like your thinking and problem solving, the way of decision making, the cognitive processes which you are following to reach to a decision. That is your covert process, mental process. Then after definition, history. I have simplified the definition. See, the history like the historical antecedents. What your syllabus mentioned is historical antecedents. What is antecedent? What was there before the psychology came out as scientific discipline? Psychology came out as the scientific study of human behavior and mental processes. Psychology now has evolved as a full-blown discipline which is closer to natural sciences, but still not exactly natural sciences. Then we are looking at the trends. T for trends. Definition, history and trends. This is the first part of your psychology syllabus. Then comes your where is psychology if we compare to, these are your social sciences. These are your natural sciences. Where does psychology lie? If we compare to these two paradigms, where does psychology lie? According to our exposure to psychology and definition of psychology, we have understood that psychology is closer to natural science, but still far from being the exact natural science because of certain limitations which we'll cover later on. But still it's far away. It has traveled the distance from abstract sciences of physical sciences, abstract discipline like philosophy. Every discipline has been born out of the philosophy, and it is an abstract discipline. When we say abstract, it has no particular definition. When we say abstract, it does not operate under limited constructs of logical positivism, bounded rationality, which we use for sciences, other social sciences. And when the rationality reaches its perfection, then it's natural sciences. So it started with the abstract philosophy. From there it was born and traveled a distance towards natural sciences, still evolving. And we'll see further that the discipline starting from the philosophy, it was born from philosophy, The aspect of philosophy was what? The study of soul, study of mind. Soul being an abstract construct, mind being an abstract construct, we have not seen them. Based on which idea of study? Rationalism. And the champion of this, as far as psychology is concerned, was this person. Descartes, who gave mind-body relationship, mind-body, interactionism and dualism both. When we see mind and body as two entities who interact with each other, there is interactionism, and this interaction happens through pineal gland. This is one philosophy. Other philosophy says that mind and body are separate. They don't interact with each other. That is dualism. So these two philosophies, although that doesn't have much of relevance as far as discipline of psychology now is concerned. If you look at the questions which used to be asked earlier, now see, this is very important. You should analyze the PYQs and you will understand how the discipline has evolved, how the questions have evolved. Still, there are certain aspects, as I will tell you, as I will expose you to the fact that the examiner of UPSC is also bound by certain facts, bound by certain questions, bound by certain ideas. He will not ask you unlimited questions. He will ask you questions, as I'll tell you, I'll show you that there are so many questions, there are so many perspectives which are getting repeated, and that is why you must be very well prepared about those areas. I'll tell you what are those areas in our lecture today itself. So, this we covered that the first aspect was this definition of psychology, history of psychology. From historical antecedents, then comes recent trends. DTH, this is one aspect, and keep noting this, because see, the thing is that in my lectures, something which you will find new is that all my lectures are different. If I am giving you a lecture on the same topic again tomorrow, that lecture will be different. So please note down things, because I am unlike other teachers, having great respect for them as well, who are teaching for 25, 30 years or 5 years, 10 years or whatsoever. They have certain notes which they keep on mugging up and repeating. I have no such ability. I don't repeat, I don't mug up, because I can't actually. So I am telling you the fact. So this definition, history and your trends. Then comes your where the psychology is placed as far as its relation to social sciences and natural sciences is concerned. This is topic number 2. Okay, which is there in your syllabus. Then comes, we have discussed that philosophy, we will discuss it again. Then the third topic comes that since we have given psychology a place which is closer to natural science, it simply means that it is relatively scientific. So the third topic is how psychology claims to be relatively scientific. Mind the words, I am saying relatively scientific. It's not scientific, it's relatively scientific. How come that? We'll just cover it. Then after all this comes one topic from where many questions have been asked, and that topic is application of psychology. Now, application of psychology can be for various aspects, but especially mentioned in your syllabus is application of psychology vis-a-vis societal problems. Now, here comes the catch. Largely, if there is any discipline, whether it is scientific or social sciences, the idea behind any discipline, any academic discipline is it should be able to solve the problems of society, problems of humanity. Even the sciences, natural sciences, are laid, the foundation principles of natural sciences are also that it should be able to solve the problems of society. But the inclination of social sciences, like psychology, is that it should be in a prominent position to solve the problems of society, especially the problems which the society is facing now. And by your common sense, can you tell me what is the biggest problem the society is facing now? You will realize the biggest problem society is facing now is mental health. Across the world, across the globe, across the civilizations, but especially in a country like India, which is overpopulated, the resource crunch is there. There is resource crunch. Yeah, yesterday I was going through a news that some of the people who had gone to attend a wedding ceremony, they started fighting with each other. You know why? The biryani which was going to be served there got over. As if they had never had the biryani at their home. They were fighting for the biryani. Biryani was over. Such is the scenario of our country. Sad. Mental state, mental health. The big issue is this mental health. How to solve it? Society, discipline, government. Whenever you have to solve any problem, this is the problem. A discipline is there, and psychology stands out. Psychology stands out as a discipline, as a scientific, semi-scientific rather, as a social science discipline, which will be able to solve the problems of society by reading the individualistic problems. That is, the focus of psychology is on individual. Suppose there is a society which is made up of so many people. So many people are there. So other disciplines like sociology will be able to solve the problem from macro perspective, by seeing the society as a whole. Or other disciplines like anthropology. But if you look at psychology will be able to solve the individualistic problem, the problem of the individual. And you know the beauty of psychology is that psychology appreciates the individual differences also. It is focusing on individual, so the problems, micro details of the problems will be appreciated. Micro details. Secondly, psychology appreciates ID. What is ID? ID is very important. You have to carry the ID. What is ID here? Individual differences. So psychology understands that, see, one student, maybe student Aditya, is different from another student Jasvi, or maybe different from another student Shivangi, different from another student Darshan. These are all different people, different individual human beings who have their own circumstances, their own personality. As you understand this by your studies of primary psychology, that we say behavior is an equation personality into environment. When we say personality, what does it mean? That stable construct we are talking about, the dominant construct in your personality. When we say environment, we say the dynamic aspects of the environment. So a person who is largely in this model, openness, conscientiousness, extraversion, agreeableness and neuroticism, which you must rectify. A person who is largely having a gregarious, you know what is the meaning of gregarious personality? Gregarious, outgoing, happy, out in the open, interacting with so many people. So a person having gregarious personality may stay silent in an environment when a gregarious person, but in an environment where the other members, he is shy of speaking in front of them. Have you not seen there are people who go to the college, in the college they are very gregarious, they are going out with each other, but then when they are at home, their family members think that this is a very introvert kind of a person because this guy does not speak at home. Possible? So we analyze behavior from both the perspective, your heredity or personality and the environment. So because of these uniqueness in psychology, that it focuses on individual, it focuses on individual differences, it focuses on both aspects, the genes and environment both. Psychology in a supreme situation, psychology is in a supreme situation as compared to other social sciences to solve societal problems like mental health issues. Because psychology will be seeing it from the perspective of what? Individual person. Why this individual is having the issues. How this individual is different from others. This individual's analysis will be done at the community level, community psychology. That's why we study community psychology. This individual, the same problem will be analyzed from the perspective of personality, from the perspective of environment. Then the psychology will take help from medical sciences. In the form of therapies. And medicine, of course, if the therapies are there, there are medicines given by whom? Psychiatrist. The psychologist will not give medicine, psychologist will give the counseling. And you must have seen it is in the trend, so many of the platforms providing you counseling certificate. That is very sad as far as India is concerned. So they will ask you for the degree. Graduation you must have done, masters you have done, PhD also you must have done. Then only they will ask you, you can practice. But as far as distributing the degrees are concerned by these OTT platforms, online platforms rather, that is very easily available. Having the certification itself is not important, neither sufficient. You have to go to the field, interact with the people to understand their situation. Fine. So here we have seen this, how psychology is in a better position as compared to other social sciences? This question is also asked in UPSC time and again. If you give these points, that is enough. One more point you can add, that with the evolution of these things, AI, artificial intelligence, then psychocybernetic tools, artificial intelligence, psychology has got supremacy. Psychology has not only become closer to natural sciences, but psychology is also in a much better position to solve the problems of society, like mental health issues, because this way precision of diagnosis can be achieved. And that's why if the diagnosis is precise, the treatment can also be as precise. Okay, so we did this, the whole analysis of the syllabus. What does it give you? One is your DTH, definition, history and trends. Trends in the 21st century. What are the trends? Multiculturalism, the positive psychology, use of AI, psychocybernetics, community psychology. We'll see how it has evolved. Community psychology is a new trend. Multiculturalism is a new trend. That perspective of psychology should not be dealt from one particular ethnocentric approach. What is ethnocentric? When we are talking about a particular culture only. When you see that the Trobriand Islands or tribes in Samoa, how they treat the event of adolescents achieving puberty, how they treat that in particular culture. But if we compare this with the other culture, that is multicultural approach. So both multiculturalism and ethnocentrism, both are required. Multicultural perspective, one, then there is multicultural or cross-cultural approach and ethnocentric approach, both are required. What is ethnocentricity? Ethnocentricity is a phenomenon where particular human behavior is analyzed in that ethnicity or in that particular culture. Both the analysis is important, because see, suppose you are trying to understand the behavior of a tribe in Jharkhand. Firstly, you will understand what are the unique traits of it. Unique traits. The unique traits of this tribe will be achieved by understanding it from the perspective of ethnocentric. But you will also like to compare and analyze their behavior with respect to tribes in Chhattisgarh, with respect to tribes in Maharashtra, and after having done this analysis pan India, you would also like to analyze their behavior as compared to similar tribes which are available across the world. When you do this, then only it is scientific, then only it is holistic. Fine. So after having done this DHT, definition, history, trends, then we saw the other pocket was your psychology as a science how and why, that is the chapter. Then psychology in relation to other disciplines, social sciences, social and natural sciences, that we saw. Then we saw the application of psychology. This summarizes the complete syllabus of chapter 1. Why I am going through it again and again? Because it should be registered in your mind. This is the limited space in which you have to play, and play really well. Then comes your analysis of PYQs, which you don't do and nobody tells you to do. Because see, simplification will be done by somebody who wants you to succeed, and who wants you to succeed fast. There is no pleasure in staying in this process for 5-6 years, and after cracking the exam, you from LBS or from any ramparts of your any particular towering coaching institute, you go and announce that I studied for 10 years and then I cleared. There is neither any pride nor any pleasure in that. Overall destruction of your youth, overall destruction of your strategy, and it says only one thing: you are left on your own. That's it. Nobody did guide you actually, and no one should be proud of it. Okay, so now you will do the analysis of PYQs. When you analyze the PYQs, which I did, so you will see there are certain questions which are repeated not once or twice, many a times. So these are the main frame of the questions. So what are the topics under the main frame? In the main frame, the questions repeated, or rather the topics repeated with different wordplay. You should not be worried about the wordplay. Get the essence of the topic. So the first and foremost is psychology is a science. You may be asked to discuss it. You may be asked to critically examine it. You may be asked to explain it. The core of the question remains same. How it is a science, why it is a science, how it is not a science, why it is not a science. That's it. Second question, second topic, question rather, is the evolution of psychology through various perspectives. Second question, and we'll deal with it smartly. After that, the third question. What is the third question? Which gets repeated again and again in one form or the other. Recent trends. What are the recent trends? Well, they may ask you multiculturalism. They may ask you the mental health, as it was asked this year, 2023. That mental health is a main frame. Mental health is the main focus of psychology nowadays. Explain with example. COVID-19, you could have said, and we'll see with the evolution of the community psychology, and community psychology being the main frame, being the main stress point of most of the psychologists across the world, especially in the developing world, where mental health is an issue and positive psychology is shaping itself towards the betterment and psychological well-being of humanity. Community psychology by default becomes your point of study. Okay, so the recent trends in psychology, another question. Then comes your application, as we discussed. Application of psychology. This is the main frame. This evolution of psychology through various perspectives, it is asked in form of historical antecedents also. So there is no need to worry. You have to see the evolution, how psychology evolved. That's it, as simple as that. Here, application of psychology. After that, now what we are discussing now after fourth point is your auxiliary questions. You know, auxiliary, secondary questions. Those four were the primary questions getting repeated again and again. Only under the four headings we have summarized the history of the question papers of psychology since last 20-25 years. Can you imagine? Yes, you can. Of course, with me, of course you can. But unfortunately or fortunately for some of the people who are minting money out of it, they have made it complex. Okay, so mainstream psychology and social constructionism. There is a difference between constructionism and constructivism, which we'll discuss when we are doing Piaget and Vygotsky. Constructionism says that the mainstream psychology, which focuses on individual differences, the mainstream psychology which objectively, scientifically analyzes the human behavior, is not correct. The social constructionism says that we shape or we adapt to our behavioral dimensions. We tend to do certain behavior according to the shape given by our society. This is the main frame of social constructionism. We'll discuss it in detail. Then comes your another question or another repeated aspect, but secondary. After fourth point, we are discussing secondary ones. Secondary is the Galton. So Galton's contribution is important, and I have kept it here because he was one of the pioneers of measurements in psychology. Eugenics being his favorite topic, when he said that intelligent people should breed with intelligent people and sire or create intelligent children, the dumb ones should not marry each other, they should stay sterile, they should not marry at all, they should not breed children. So this way 90% of India remains unmarried. Galton's approach, contribution, focus on genetics. Galton says measurement. Galton says measurement of what? Intelligence especially. So Galton's contribution is important. That we'll see. Then comes your auxiliary question only. The difference between novices and experts. Novices versus experts. Now this question also traces back to psychology being a science or a folk wisdom. Folk wisdom, you understand, birds of a feather flock together. Two people, if they are flocking together in Rajan Nagar, eating samosa at Chai Sutta bar and then going to Mukherjee Nagar to have tea at Bholu Chai Wala, these two people are actually birds of the same feather. What it means? That they have similar kinds of attitude, personality, belief and intelligence. But there is another saying, opposites attract. You being intelligent, she being dumb. You being intelligent, he being dumb. Gender neutral approach. So you people are gelling together because he or she feels that you can fill in the vacuum of their personality being not so intelligent. This is also saying. So which of them is correct? We don't know. Psychology says don't do this. Psychology says we'll analyze each and everything through our tools. What are the tools? Objectivity. Accuracy. Universalism. These are the tools through which psychology analyzes things, and these are the tools because of which psychology can be called a science. Psychology is objective in its approach. Psychology does not say I am the greatest. Psychology says prove me that I am not the greatest. Skepticism. Psychology believes in accuracy by using the methods of experimental research. Psychology says that our principles are universal in its approach. Novice versus experts. Then after that, then comes your fewer new perspectives like cognitive revolution in form of cognitive neuroscience, that is asked, and multicultural approach. This is nothing but the recent trends, but I have highlighted it as a different topic only to stress over the point that see, this is the dimension within which the examiner will play his role. Examiner will ask questions. If you prepare all these topics, if you prepare all these in a detailed manner, having the notes for it with specified points with you, all these topics, apart from the conceptual understanding which will definitely give you, and many of you already have, then you will wonder that any question can be left. Okay, one thing, when we are talking about this novice versus expert, I mentioned you intuition versus the scientific approach, folk wisdom versus the psychological or scientific approach. That is also subsumed under this topic only. This is the complete coverage of the psychology, chapter 1. And now comes the real magic. We will cover all these chapters under a unique technique which is called PTQ. What is PTQ? PTQ is prepare through questions. As it is a revision kind of course, we can definitely go through this approach. Even for the novices who don't know anything about psychology, I have trained them through this technique, prepare through questions, prepare through tests, and they have done wonderful. They have done exceptionally well in the examination because the roots of the concepts can be explained through the questions itself. It is not reverse engineering. It is being smart, actually. So we'll deal all these aspects which we have discussed till now of the chapter 1 in this manner, in this fashion, and we'll see how. So the first thing which we have covered in form of a question, through which you will understand the conceptual underpinnings and also have some ready-made masala which you will produce in the examination, is your question number 1. And that question number 1 is simple question. Questions are always simple, the answers are tough. Psychology is a science. Critically examine. This question may be asked in different ways, in different fashion, with different wordings. There may be a full paragraph of 100 words asking you the question. There may be just one short sentence, psychology is a science, prove it. But you have to see the core of the question. The core of the question lies around psychology being a science, because we define psychology as the scientific study of what? Human behavior and mental processes. Fine. So we'll proceed with the points. How psychology claims to be a science? First of all, you give a brief introduction. Psychology, just for these kind of questions, just define it. Psychology definition. Psychology is the scientific study of human behavior and mental processes. Full stop. Finish. Move ahead. Now you will say psychology claims to be science on the following grounds. Which are the grounds? Ground number 1. Psychology uses empirical evidence. What is empirical? And why we are using this? For any discipline to be called a science, it is important that they use empirical evidence. For you to be called a scientific person, for you to be called a person of scientific temper, it is important that you use empirical evidence. Have you seen there are two types of people? One who talks in air. You must have encountered when you stay at the pockets of the preparation of UPSC, be it Old Rajendra Nagar, Mukherjee Nagar, especially talking about the Delhi area. You must have seen there are two types of aspirants. Type 1 aspirant who will say, अब उड़ा देंगे, बस एक बार लिखने दो, फिर देखो rank 1 आएगा. There is another aspirant who says that, yes, let me see the syllabus, let me see the previous year question paper, let me see my own caliber, where do I stand? Is there a person who can guide me from this level in a graded manner towards success? How much should I study? Unlike the most of the people who are completely lost, they come to do the coaching, start studying, they study and study. They are never told, they don't even know how much to study. Is there somebody who can say, yes, it is predictable? These guys will be looking for this kind of an approach. And unfortunately, most of the institutions will say, no, it is unpredictable. You never know. They will give you so many philosophical aspects. They will give you so many sermons. They will never tell, do this. Then if you have the capability, you will clear. Otherwise, go back. This is not your cup of tea. You have better things to do in life. Nobody says so. And if you have the sincerity, and if you are motivated enough, you are given the right guidance, you will definitely crack it. And most of you will crack it. So, the first thing is the empirical evidence. What is the evidence? If you go to a coaching, suppose, you ask them, what is your success ratio? They will say, this is the person who topped from my institute. You will say, how many of them had joined you? 20,000 in a year. In the 5 years, 1 lakh. Out of that, only 50 results. What is your success ratio? Nothing. 50 out of 1 lakh is your success ratio. That they would any day have cleared the exam. What is your role? Nothing. So, be scientific in your approach. Empirical evidence. So, this is the hallmark of science. Empirical evidence. Empirical, which can be shown. Okay. So, how does psychology produce empirical evidence? By doing what? Now, we'll go and apply psychology for the research method. What happens in the research method? Firstly, the researcher finds a problem statement. Researcher is curious, just curious, that probably intelligence, IQ and creativity share some relationship. He is not aware. Now, the researcher will study all the case studies, researcher will study all the literature, then the researcher will come to know that yes, definitely there is some relationship. After doing the deep study, after doing the case study, doing the survey and questionnaire, floating the questionnaire across the population, the researcher will come up with a hypothesis. Hypothesis that as the IQ increases, the creativity also increases. This is the hypothesis. What is hypothesis? Hypothesis is a tentative assumption. Tentative. It may or may not be true. But the researcher in psychology is of different temperament. Researcher in psychology is of skeptic approach. Prove me wrong. So researcher goes with the null hypothesis. Null hypothesis, IQ and creativity are not related. This is null hypothesis. Researcher says, I have to prove this wrong. When I prove this wrong, then one thing will be proven. What is that? Alternate hypothesis. IQ grows, creativity grows. Another alternate hypothesis, IQ grows, creativity comes down. Okay, any of them may be correct. So, firstly, the researcher got the problem statement. Before the problem statement also lots of literature studies, survey are done. When I say with the utmost certainty that this is the way you will clear it, this is the way you will get 300 plus marks, provided that you have that caliber, that is based on facts and analysis of lots of students. It's not in air. So, problem statement, then hypothesis. After hypothesis, what does happen? The researcher then comes up with a plan. Research design. Research design. What is research design? Research design is backbone, blueprint, planning of the steps which will take place now and the steps which are affected by it. Research design even affects the previous steps, this hypothesis and problem statement. Because after defining the research design, because research design, is your backbone, is a blueprint on which the further plans of research, further steps of research, the methodology of the research later on, and the previous steps will depend. After research design, what? Then comes your sampling. Which kind of sampling done? Which sampling method will be used will depend upon research design. Then comes your data collection. Now this data collection can take place in form of experimental research. If it is an experimental research, then the data collection will be automatic in the research itself. Because in the experimental research, what happens? You have a control group, you have an experimental group. The treatment, that is IV manipulation, this I am bringing here only because most of you are aware of the terms. But it gives you a sense of holistic preparation because it is connected to other parts of your paper 1. This is called interlinkage, which is unfortunately not done by anybody, deliberately to keep you guessing and to make psychology appear very great and to make the teacher of psychology also appear very great. That is not the case here. We will simplify everything. So the IV manipulation. IV manipulation is called treatment. This is introduced in the experimental group, like a special class. This group, no special class. Appeared in prelims, how much they scored? 80. They appeared in prelims, how much they scored? 90. So this difference of 10 is brought by this special class. Okay, so data collection is automatic through the research only. Suppose it is not experimental research, it is not experimental research, it is NER, non-experimental research, or QER, quasi-experimental research. Then what will happen? Then your data collection will be based on interview, survey, questionnaire, case study, qualitative methods. What are the qualitative methods which you have studied? Grounded theory approach, focus group discussion. That also we'll discuss later on. But bringing them here only to make the schema of your mind. Schema will be formed so that you are able to connect different topics. Okay, so what we are talking here is your sampling data collection. You see the approach here. You are forming a hypothesis. Now, after the hypothesis, the other steps are scientific or not. Data collection is being done in a scientific manner or not. Yes. After that, what will happen? Once we have done this, after data collection, the statistical analysis. Where comes the topic like t-test, ANOVA, one way, two way. These are all in your syllabus. You must know. Many people don't even say, don't look at the syllabus, look at me. Look at the syllabus, don't look at me. Then comes your FA, factorial analysis. These methods are used to statistically, mathematically, scientifically, experimentally analyze the data. And who does that? This is scientific. That is why we say psychology uses empirical evidence. After statistical analysis, what? I'm just giving you the steps so that you remember the steps also. The interpretation, of the result, and report writing. These are the steps you follow. I covered many questions within this only. RD, research design, being the success blueprint. Many points came there. You see this. First comes your problem statement. Okay. Then comes your hypothesis. After hypothesis, research design. After research design, sampling. After sampling, data collection. After data collection, your statistical analysis. After analysis, nothing, interpretation and report writing. But this research design not only affects the further steps but the previous steps also. Because the research is not a one way. Research is a two way. Research is a multi-pronged approach. Research is difficult until you are doing the research as a PhD person in India. If you are doing research in India, go and bring the LPG cylinder of your professor. Go and bring the kids of your professor. If you are doing it in abroad, USA, the professor may call you even at 2 a.m. Come down to the lab. Do this study. India lacking in research. That's why India is a underdeveloped or maybe developing country. Unfortunate fact. So these are the steps. What we have used, statistical analysis, mathematical analysis. What we have used is hypothesis, and after that proving that hypothesis wrong or reject, or that you have studied right. This null hypothesis. Either it may be accepted, accept or reject. So suppose you reject it, and in the final analysis also it is rejected. In the final analysis it is rejected. So this is called the power of the research. The probability of null hypothesis getting rejected and the final analysis also it is getting rejected. No error, it is power, statistical power, which we'll study later on, but I'm just giving you so that you remember it. The idea here is that it gets reminded. So after this we'll move on. This was the first point regarding the empirical evidence being the foundation or cornerstone of the psychology. Then comes second point, which we have already covered, objective data analysis. How it is done, tell me? Statistical analysis of the data. How it is done? Statistical analysis. Right now we have seen we are using what? T-test, ANOVA. Why we are using T-test and ANOVA? To understand the significance of the treatment. What is the treatment? Manipulation of IV. What is IV? Independent variable. Independent variable is a variable which is largely independent of the influence of other variables. Manipulation of which brings changes in the psychological construct under study, which is measured objectively in form of DV, dependent variable. The basic idea here is to control the EV, external variable, effectively, and to neglect the effect of confounding variables, to ensure that the confounding variables and external variable don't play a role in the shaping of DV. And largely the influence of IV is objectively analyzed. This is the main frame of the research. Okay, moving to the third point. Why psychology is called science? So the third point is your, as we call, skepticism. Every psychological research, every psychological theory is laid bare for peer review. Critical analysis and feedback, largely looking for constructive feedback. Peer review, critical analysis and feedback. We lay it bare. We say that yes, this is the theory, Yerkes-Dodson approach, give me your viewpoint. See, the problem with the current generation is that, I'm not talking about the UPSC aspirants only, because that's a very small part of the youth. The problem with most of the people is that they are rigid about their viewpoints. If you look at the producers of cinema, look at the earlier arena, the directors used to meet, analyze, critically review each other's work and used to give them feedback. They used to appreciate the feedback, although howsoever critical they might be. They used to take it as an open mind, with an open mind. You see this movie, The 12 Fail Approach. Lots of criticism to the guy belonging to a humble background, having sheer will to achieve it. This is what you should have. Lots of hardships, lots of problems, but still the person sustained. You know why? Because of taking criticism in an objective, open and positive manner. Take the feedbacks positively. Here what is happening? In the class, ask a question to anybody. The person will say, who the hell are you? How dare you ask me a question? You are a student aspiring to become a civil servant, an IAS, the top class examination of the world actually, and you are not even open to that question. If you can't answer it, at least attempt it. The teacher will not kill you. And if the person is giving you a feedback, you should take it positively. So psychology says, no, this is my theory, now criticize it. Left to criticism. Do whatever, criticize. I am happy. As you see, there are Indian philosophers who have told this in different languages. Nindak niyere rakhiye. The person who is criticizing you should be kept aside you, because that person will ensure that you improve as a person. So be positive in your approach. Okay, peer review, critical analysis. Here what is happening? Having beer with the peer but not giving any review. So third point done. After that one more thing you can add is most of the psychological research, they are based on which principle, as I have told you in other classes as well. थोड़ा बहुत याद आएगा अभी आपको. Randomization and replication. The psychological researches are based on random sampling. Suppose hundreds of students enter this CSB. This is a Chai Sutta bar in Old Rajan Nagar. I am giving this promotion. This guy gives me some percentage. So that's why I have to promote him. CSB, randomization. The students entering this small dhaba type restaurant. So there they will enter. These guys, now we have to do some survey. Who will we choose? Randomly selecting 10 out of the 100 students who appear in that bar. 10 students randomly selected. What does it suggest? That we are not biased. And keeping your researches bias free, error free is one of the aim of psychology. Out of several aims, one of the aim is to keep it error free, bias free. That is why what is used? Single blind and double blind. अभी बात करेंगे उसके बारे में भी. ये खत्म करते हैं. Replication. The same research setup can be replicated, can be duplicated, can be used in other setups with different person, different place, different timings. PPT, person, place, time. PPT approach. Now these words which are getting repeated can be used in your answers with respect to person, place and time. ये disorder का भी है. Somebody who is disoriented, as what happens with, unfortunately in our society, especially in our common language, we say this person is pagal hai. Somebody who is not adhering to your views is a pagal. So the psychological definition of a disorder is, if somebody is disoriented with respect to person, place and time, then only we will say abnormality has taken place. You are not able to do your daily chores, to maintain yourself physically, psychologically sane in your day-to-day life on a sustained basis, prolonged basis, and you are disoriented, largely disoriented with respect to person. With whom you are, you don't know. Where you are, you don't know. What time it is, you don't know. Largely, relatively, then it is an abnormality. When it gets accentuated, it becomes schizophrenic. Illusion, delusion and hallucinations. Delusion of grandeur, that I am the one, I am God. Persecution, somebody will kill me. These kinds of things settle in there. So they are disoriented with the person, place and time. Just giving you an example. we'll deal with it effectively when we are doing the disorder chapter. So these are the principles. One more I had given local control, that is not very important. R.A. Fisher had given that was given for agricultural science, not for psychology. But yes, if you remember this randomization replication, that is enough. So your research is based on random approach. The sampling is random. You are not choosing anybody out of bias. और एक चीज अभी आपको मैंने बताया that we want to keep it bias free, error free. दो चीजें हम करते हैं, सिंगल ब्लाइंड, डबल ब्लाइंड. अब देखो ये हमारा है कंट्रोल ग्रुप. दिस इज आवर कंट्रोल ग्रुप, दिस इज एक्सपेरिमेंटल ग्रुप. When the subjects and the researcher both of them don't know कौन सा कंट्रोल ग्रुप में आदमी है, कौन सा एक्सपेरिमेंटल ग्रुप में है, दिस इज कॉल्ड डबल ब्लाइंड. But when the subjects know but subjects don't know and the researcher knows, only the researcher knows, तो वो सिंगल ब्लाइंड है. सिंगल ब्लाइंड में अब ऐसा नहीं हो सकता कि सब्जेक्ट को बता दिया, रिसर्चर को नहीं बताया. दैट डजंट हैपन. रिसर्चर को तो बताना ही पड़ेगा. लेकिन डबल ब्लाइंड में क्या करते हैं, रिसर्चर को भी नहीं बताते और सब्जेक्ट को भी नहीं बताते. आइदर यू आर इन कंट्रोल ग्रुप और एक्सपेरिमेंटल ग्रुप. देन इट बिकम्स लार्जली रिलेटिवली बायस फ्री, एरर फ्री, राइट. तो वहां पे क्या हो जाता है, डिमांड कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स जो है वो कम हो जाते हैं हमारे. We'll deal about the Pygmalion effect and demand characteristics when we are doing the research methods. But just giving you a fodder, ये आपके दिमाग में रहे. It brings curiosity. See, be curious about psychology. Be curious about your optional. Why? You have to be as curious about your optional as you are going to be curious about your life partner. As simple as that. Curiosity तो होनी चाहिए ना. जितना आप मतलब अपने